हाय गाइस, कैन यू ऑल सी मी? क्या आप सभी लोग मुझे देख सकते हैं? सो लेट मी जस्ट चेक इफ आई एम लाइव और नॉट. Okay, I think I'm live. Okay. So we'll wait for 2 more minutes, guys. Let a few people join in, then we will start today's session. We'll study about the international relations concepts in political science. Let a few people join in. If anyone has any doubts from the last session, they can ask me. Okay, guys, so let us start off with today's class on political science and international relations, presented to you by me, Sumit Kapoor. This is a brief introduction about me. My name is Sumit Kapoor, guys, and I teach in the UPSC CSE category on Unacademy Plus. You can follow me there and you can get access to all my courses just by subscribing to Unacademy Plus. I want to tell you about my new batch which is coming on Unacademy, that is complete course on PSIR optional, which is starting from 2nd November, and you can all subscribe to Unacademy Plus. If you do, then don't forget to use my referral code, the PSIR Club. You simply need to go to the app download the subscription app, and then join using the code the PSIR club and get 10% off on your subscription. What are the advantages of having an Academy Plus subscription? Just like Netflix, where you get all access to all the movies, over here you get access to all the courses. Structured batches are there. The languages are Hindi, English, as well as bilingual. You can watch as many times as possible, and there will be 100% syllabus coverage, including the optionals. So with one subscription you can get access to GS as well as optional courses too. Also there will be answer writing practice as well as test series and current affairs too. And if you do crack mains, Unacademy Plus will help you, guide you for your interview preparation as well. So let us now start off with the class. And before that, you can also subscribe to these channels: Unacademy Articulate, Unacademy UPSC Current Affair, Unacademy Expedition UPSC CSE, on which currently I am taking class. Unacademy Laksh, this is for the Hindi medium students. Unacademy Articulate, as well as the Facebook group. So let us now start off with today's class, and we will be starting off with the concepts of IR. In last class, we had started about we have started with the concept called as the concept of balance of power, and we will continue with this. Now, before starting off, let me just give you a quick 2-minute recap of what we studied in this balance of power. Balance of power simply means that in order to ensure peace, we have to ensure that the power remains distributed among many people. If this happens, if this happens, then hegemony of one could be avoided. Hegemony of one is avoided if this happens. Is this clear, guys? This is what we have studied till now in balance of power. It simply talks about distribution of power. And then we also talked about that it is one of the oldest concept which was based upon the Westphalian world order. And also we discussed that the concept itself is very contested. It is very ambiguous, as well as it is very murky. Murky means there are a lot of gray areas. There is no clear cut black and white segregation. There are a lot of gray areas when it comes to the balance of power and its definitions. It is very subjective terms. For example, if I give you an example, how is this a very subjective term? So see, it's the vagueness of in the way the balance of power is defined. You will get to know. For example, sometimes we say A balancing means A plus B equals to balance equal to C. Sometimes we say that A and C form a collision against B. Sometimes we say B plus C form a collision against A. So are you seeing? Sometimes it is A plus B, sometimes A plus C, sometimes B plus C. Sometimes this is A minus B. Okay, so this is what is about the balance of power. So now let us proceed and let us discuss some more concepts in the balance of power. Let us talk about the different ways. Let us talk about the different ways in which the scholars have defined the balance of power concept. For example, let us say Morgenthau. Now Morgenthau clearly says that balance of power is a policy which is aimed at establishing certain state of affairs. This is what Morgenthau wants to say, that if you want to achieve certain state of affairs, try to go for balance of power. He also says that balance of power aims at establishing equal distribution of power. Equal distribution of power. So first scholar which you need to know is about Morgenthau and what are his views. Let me just highlight this. This is the view of Morgan Dow. Now let us move towards the next caller and let's see what Nurst Haas has to say. Nurst Haas. Nurst Haas has given multiple meanings of balance of power. Like the balance of power for Nurst Haas can be that it is equal distribution of power. Just a second, I'll be just back in 1 minute. Just a second. Yes. Any doubts, guys? Let me check if anyone of you have asked the question. Okay. Let's proceed now. So Nurst Haas says that balance of power. What do you gives multiple meanings of balance of power. For example, he says that balance of power is like an equilibrium. He says that balance of power is equilibrium when there is equal power distribution among the states. For example, there are three states. So if you divide them in this triangle line, then what you achieve is balance of power. This is what Nurst Haas wants to say. Nurst Haas also says that one meaning of balance of power is describing the universal law of history. That if you want to check the history and if you want one law to define history, what is the universal law of history? The universal law of history is balance of power. So Nurst Haas calls balance of power as the universal law of history. This is again very important. Remember, yesterday I told you, I gave you the views of David Hume. What did David Hume said? David Hume, the third scholar, David Hume says that balance of power is nothing but common sense. Common sense. It is the law of international politics. It is a dictum. This is what David Hume had to say. So you should be knowing these scholar terms whenever you write your answers. This should reflect in your answers. So we have covered three scholars. That is, first is Morgenthau, then is Nurst Haas, and then is David Hume. Now let us talk about the scholars which criticize this balance of power. So we can discuss one topic in which we'll study about relevance of balance of power. So then we study scholars like Pandit Nehru, what are his views. Then we'll study Stephen Walt, what are his views. Then we'll study all these scholars. So let us now discuss the relevance of balance of power in the 21st century. That is the concept relevant today. Is it relevant or today? Let us see. Now, see, my first question which comes to my mind is, sir, why are you asking about the relevance? Isn't it obvious? You just now said that balance of power is nothing but common sense. Then why suddenly the common sense will become irrelevant? It should always remain relevant. Isn't it or not? No, my dear friends. Times have changed. Times have changed in the sense now, now the balance of power is not that relevant because if you see today's time, the today's world is said to be complex interdependence. Earlier, earlier we used to describe the world through billiards ball model, but now the correct model to describe the world is the Cobb Webb model. Cobb Webb model, which is given by John Burton. John Burton gave the Cobb Webb model, and the billiard ball model. This was given by Arnold Wolfer. Arnold Wolfer. So in today's times, the world is complex interdependence. One country is forced to love another country which otherwise would love to hate because of the nature of the economy. The nature of economy has changed from agrarian economy to, you can say, manufacturing to service sector. And therefore, just I'll give you a basic example. One simple iPhone, its parts are manufactured in more than 60 countries. Now, can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? Today's world, today's era is the era of globalization. Therefore, the times have changed, and so needs the concept to be changed. And hence, the balance of power is also changed. Now, see what has changed. Let me see. Let me talk. Let us analyze this. The balance of power was basically during the phase of Westphalian world order, and that was basically dominated by, you can say, statism. That was dominated by militarism. That was dominated by hard power. But today, but today, the relevance of hard power, the hard power is no longer that relevant. The games have changed, and therefore, according to the liberal thinkers, according to the liberal thinkers like Woodrow Wilson, Woodrow Wilson, Joseph Nye, Joseph Nye, these all suggest that balance of power is no longer relevant. In fact, they say that balance of power is prone to war. It can convert any local conflict into a major war, because in balance of power, countries go for alliance, and if it is their slightest of, you can say, misinterpretation or insecurity, one country will attack the other, and therefore there will be a war between allies. So what could have been resolved at a local level now needs a war to come to a conclusion. This is what is the disadvantage of balance of power, that it can convert the local war between two countries into a global conflict. So any one of you who wants to know what are the negative, or so this is very important point, that it converts local conflicts into war. Now let us proceed further and let us talk about that, how Woodrow Wilson says this. Woodrow Wilson gives a very, you can say, beautiful analogy. Woodrow Wilson says that balance of power gives protection against measles. Like one particular disease it has saved you from, but it creates condition from for forming a plague. That it creates condition for forming a plague that is large level. It will spread to large people. What I mean to say is that, okay, balance of power might be suitable for one particular situation, but it creates hundreds of such situations where there it might not be suitable. So it's just that you are having a major cut and you are using bandit. Bandit is just temporary, my dear. You have to operate. You have to get the stitches done, isn't it or not? And same views are being kept by Pandit Nehru. Pandit Nehru says that balance of power is nervous state of peace. Nervous state of peace. It is filled with a lot of insecurity, a lot of tensions, and there is always a fear of war. There is always a fear of war. And why? Because countries are possessing nuclear weapons. Countries are always trying to increase their power. They are trying to balance out each other. And as a result, there is a vicious cycle there is a vicious cycle of arms race going on. And that is why Pandit Nehru never supported balance of power. He always supported collective security. Now, let us see even the balance of power as a concept, though it's the concept given by realist, but it itself is criticized by many realist scholars. Who are the realist scholars who criticize this? The first is Stephen Walt. Stephen Walt them himself has modified the concept, and he gives the concept of balance of threat. What is the balance of threat? That he says that according to him, countries actually balance out the, not they don't balance out power, they balance out threat. And threat is simply, you can say, how one how one country perceives it. For example, let us say if USA and Japan are there. Now, if USA is increasing its power, increasing power, it is increasing weapons. But Japan doesn't do that. Though they are neighbors, though they are very closely linked. Why? No doubt US is increasing power, but why not Japan is increasing? Because Japan doesn't feel threatened. Doesn't feel threatened. So this is what Stephen wants to say. That not necessarily every country increases power just because their neighbors are increasing power. They only try to balance out threat and not power. And therefore, Stephen Walt gave the concept of balance of threat. It is the threat which the country go for balancing and not the power. And therefore, he suggested four conditions which may determine the threat perception. What are the four conditions? That first, there should be the offensive capacity of the, let us say, your neighbor state. Second, he should be your neighbor generally because attack chances increases. If let's say is in your neighbor geographical proximity, if the country is very far, let us say if somewhere Europe country is increasing, France is increasing power. Why will India bother? If France is increasing power, its neighbor will bother now. But let us say if Pakistan increases, then India will bother because they are a neighbor. They also have offensive capacity, that is capacity to attack. They have a culture like this. Okay, they have offensive intentions, and that is why it is said country needs to go for intentions rather than just you can say balancing out the par. So they balance out the threat. Same second, the critique which comes from is Kenneth Organsky. Kenneth Organsky says that he has given basically power transition theory. He says that war does not happen in balance of power. War is not a feature of balance of power. War happens when there is a major power transition taking place. That is, a major power is trying to replace the established superpower. For example, USA and China. China is trying hard to replace USA. Now their war will happen. So same concept comes closer to the Thucydides trap, similar to Thucydides traps, which says that whenever there is a conflict between two powers, war is likely to happen. So, according to this theory, war happens more not when there is a balance of power, but when power transition takes place from A to B. This is called as the power transition theory, given by Kenneth Organsky. So, Kenneth Organsky gives the power transition theory. So, you should be knowing about two scholars right now. We have talked in realist, and they are, first is the Stephen Walt, who gives the balance of threat, and then you need to know about the Kenneth Organsky, Stephen Walt and Kenneth Organsky, who gives about the power transition theory. So these two are considered realist. Now let us move towards the next criticism or the analysis, which is from social constructivist school. Social constructivists suggest that balance of power theory overlooks the role played by norms, overlooks the role played by values, culture, and balance of power theory is very. It's focusing too much on materialism, material wealth, military. It is too much focusing on these physical coercive effort, and it is actually these norms, the taboos that have had a very great role to play in international relations. So basically, what social constructivists want to say is that the balance of power theory interprets the world in one particular way, just like one beautiful quote which Nicholas Onuf give. Nicholas Onuf and you can say Alexander Wendt. Both are the social constructivist scholar. They give the concept of anarchy. Anarchy is what states make of it. What states make of it means how you are interpreting your anarchy in a one specific way. That is how it will be interpreted. So anarchy is not only bad, not always bad. It is just how the so-called realist scholars like Kenneth Waltz, Meir Schimmer, they have interpreted in a specific way. And that is why you can say anarchy is like that. But otherwise, Nicholas Onuf and Alexander Wendt say that anarchy can also be peace. So that is what the social constructivists criticize. And so we have studied the social constructivist. Next, in this only, if you look at today's world is asymmetrical. What is asymmetrical? Asymmetrical balancing means earlier their state used to balance state. One country balance other country. But now states have to fight non-state actors also. Non-state actors like terrorist groups. Aren't they challenge? Aren't they a very aren't they very big challenge to the hegemony of US? If you see if you see the 2001 attack, the 9/11 attack, so they literally it was the beginning of the decline of US hegemony with one attack by Al Qaeda. So now, if you see Afghanistan, the Taliban, etc., the non-state actors have captured almost the entire country. So that is what I want to tell you about. That the world is now changing, and now the challenge, the threat is also coming from the non-state actors. So the balance of power remains no more relevant. Now let me see if there is any queries from the students. Just a second, I'll be back. Guys, I have a call from Unacademy. Okay, guys. So, should we continue now? Let me see if everything is working fine. Okay, so let us continue. Uh, so Nicholas Onuf and Alexander Welt, we have discussed this, and now we are talking about asymmetrical balancing. What is asymmetrical balancing? Basically, you can say the terrorist organizations, they are now becoming very active. So now the states have to balance about them also, and they don't observe these non-state actors. They don't object any norms, etc. of international politics. So it is very difficult to practice balance of power against them. So again, it loses out relevance. Okay, let us proceed forward. Now, real scholars have also added the concept of soft balancing these days. What is the concept of soft balancing, sir? Soft balancing is, you can say, opposite to the concept of traditional balancing of hard or military balancing. That is, soft balancing up means following the political approach, economic approach, where there is a one single superpower, let us say US. Now, if you want to balance out US, you cannot do it military for sure. But what we can do is we can form these small group of countries can come together, and they can, you can say, raise a collective voice against US at UN. So basically utilizing the liberal institutions to balance out, so that they don't dominate these so-called liberal institutions. They can call for more participation, they can call for more inclusive governance, more democracy at these institutions. So platforms like UNSC are being used. You have seen, especially India is also forming like G77, G4. What is all this? Just want to pressurize the developed country. Soft balancing. Soft balancing. So they can form a coalition of like-minded countries to check the action of a single superior superpower. So this has also the concept of soft balancing. You can say the concept of soft balancing has also changed a lot, and that is also challenging the concept of balance of power. Let us now talk about the next, which is challenging, is the nuclear weapons. Now this you all know the concept of nuclear weapons and nuclear deterrence. If you have just one nuclear weapon, you don't need anyone else. That is, you can say, your savior. That is your savior. Therefore, the concept of nuclear weapons and nuclear deterrence is also challenging the concept of balance of power. Then we have also discussed that the situations have changed and the world has been complexly interdependent. So Westphalian world order no more exists now, and therefore balance of power is not relevant in, you can say, global level. But yes, at regional level you can still feel some kind of balance of power is there. Like you can say in Asia Pacific, you can say Quad. Okay, some certain elements you will find of balance of power, though it's not a military alliance, but still you'll see India Pakistan balancing out each other. So in regional context, you definitely see. And the next concept is of the security community. Now, nations have utilized the concept of the security community, and the nations are much more involved in economic trade. And that is why it is said that there is a rise of trading states rather than military states. So this is also challenging the concept of balance of power. Earlier, the Germany, France, Russia, Japan, these are now actively involving in economic sphere, and hence we can say that there is an emergence of security community like European Union, ASEAN, which are all very well connected. There is a lot of trust between them, and therefore again they don't balance out each other. They don't go for the physical aspect of, you can say, balance of power. So you can quote about these trading states, emergence of security community, European Union, ASEAN. So this is what tells you that balance of power is losing out its relevance. But let's not forget that what David Hume has rightly said, that balance of power is a common sense, and you can now see his words becoming true, because if you observe the world, there is a decline of multilateralism, and then is again a rise of unilateralism. The so-called these institutions are not living up to that level, and again the world is becoming very uncertain, especially after the post COVID, after COVID corona crisis. The world has become very very uncertain, and hence what is to be noted is that balance of power is still very very relevant. If you see the aggressiveness, the Chinese belligerents in the South China Sea, it's aimed to you can say dominate the world. It's aimed to revise the USA's hegemony, Chinese expansionism, and therefore again you are seeing that balance of power will remain very very relevant. Second, we also know that nuclear weapons have definitely challenged the concept of balance of power. But we also know that nuclear weapons will never be used again. They will never be, they are not to be used. They are just for deterrence. They are just for deterrence. So ultimately, the military aspect, the military power, the scope of military power will never go away. And that is why it is said that balance of power will always remain relevant. Is this clear, guys? Is this clear? Everybody. Now let me take some doubts if any one of you have. Any doubts, guys? You can ask me. I'm giving you 2 minutes time. You can ask me any doubts if you have. Okay, let us end this session then, and tomorrow at 11 a.m. we'll discuss from here. Before going, guys, I want to tell you about the Unacademy Plus, which you can join. And if you want to join Unacademy Plus, then use my referral code, the PSIR Club. If you do that, you will get 10% off on Unacademy Plus subscription. For those of you who are new, my name is Sumit Kapoor and I teach live on Unacademy Plus. You can go and check out all my courses. Simply you go and search my name. I am a verified educator on Unacademy. Okay, then guys, see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. Same time. We'll discuss one more concept of international relations tomorrow. And don't forget, 2nd November, my new batch is coming. Okay, then. Take care. Bye bye.